March 19th, 2002. The city of London lay under a thick blanket of darkness, its streets illuminated only by the occasional flicker of streetlights. A black van tore through the roads of Wood Green, moving with an urgency that suggested something more than just another late-night police operation. Inside, a team of British law enforcement officers sat in tense silence, accompanied by at least one Secret Service agent. Their target? A modest apartment that, to an outsider, seemed utterly insignificant. But appearances were deceiving. The van screeched to a halt. Doors flew open. In a coordinated burst of movement, the officers stormed the building. Within moments, they had shattered the flimsy apartment door and subdued two bewildered occupants, a young man and his girlfriend, still rubbing the sleep from their eyes. The man, Gary McKinnon, barely had time to comprehend what was happening before he was yanked from his seat and pinned to the floor. Yet strangely, it wasn't him the officers were truly after. Laptops, hard drives, USBs, anything that could store digital information was swiftly confiscated. McKinnon could only watch, helpless, as his life's work, his secrets, his discoveries were stuffed into evidence bags and rushed away like stolen treasure. Moments later, he was dragged into the van, staring out the tinted windows as his possessions disappeared into the night. Across the ocean, at the Pentagon, a private plane touched down in Washington, D.C., carrying these very devices. Analysts and military experts pored over them with an urgency bordering on desperation. What had McKinnon found? How had he done it? And most terrifying of all, who else might have seen what he saw? This was not just a hacker caught snooping where he shouldn't. This was something bigger. McKinnon wasn't your typical cyber criminal. He wasn't after money, fame, or chaos. He was after something far more elusive, a truth that governments had buried under decades of secrecy. I was searching for suppressed technology, he would later admit. UFO technology. It was a claim that seemed outlandish, till the US government's reaction made it clear. They weren't just arresting a hacker, they were silencing a witness. It was 2 a.m. The city outside was silent, but inside a dimly lit apartment, Gary McKinnon sat hunched over his keyboard, eyes locked onto the glowing screen. A cigarette burned between his fingers, forgotten, as his mind raced through lines of code. He was looking for a weakness, a tiny crack in the impenetrable digital walls of the US military. And then he found it. An open port 139, a simple vulnerability in the Pentagon system meant for file sharing across networks. It was a door left unlocked, an invitation for those who knew where to look. McKinnon took a deep breath and clicked. No password. He was in. The realization sent a jolt of adrenaline through his veins. He wasn't just inside any network. This was the Pentagon, one of the most secure entities in the world, and yet its digital defenses had fallen like a house of cards. With careful precision, McKinnon installed remote access software, ensuring that he could slip in and out whenever he pleased. For months, he explored the corridors of classified US intelligence. And then, one night, he found something. A strange Excel document. The file's name: Non-Terrestrial Officers. It contained a list of names, military personnel whose ranks and designations didn't match any known division of the US Armed Forces. Alongside these names were records of fleet-to-fleet transfers. There was only one problem. The US didn't have a known space fleet. His hands trembled as he scanned the data. Was this proof of a secret space program? Were these officers stationed somewhere beyond Earth's atmosphere? And if so, what exactly were they protecting? The deeper McKinnon dug, the more the puzzle pieces fit together. Then, a breakthrough. NASA. Building 8, a name he had heard before, whispered in testimonies of former government employees who claimed that UFO evidence was being scrubbed from public records. McKinnon set his sights on the Johnson Space Center, employing the same methods he had used before. Once again, he was in, but he wasn't prepared for what he was about to see. In a directory labeled Unprocessed, McKinnon clicked on a file he had never seen before. A small line appeared on the screen, slowly expanding as the image loaded. A photograph. McKinnon's breath caught in his throat as the image revealed itself. There, floating above Earth, was a massive cigar-shaped object. It had geodesic domes protruding from its surface, a structure unlike anything built by human hands. It was not a satellite. It was not a known spacecraft. And then, just as the full image came into view, his screen froze. The mouse moved on its own. Someone else was in the system. In Washington, D.C., alarms rang through the National Infrastructure Protection Center. A hacker had infiltrated the military's most sensitive databases. And now, he was getting too close. Within hours, the hunt for McKinnon began. It didn't take long. His digital fingerprints led straight to his apartment in Wood Green. At dawn, his door was kicked in. His computers were seized. And yet, despite the overwhelming show of force, something was off. McKinnon wasn't taken to a normal processing center. His case didn't follow standard procedure. The U.S. government wanted more than just an arrest. They wanted him. Extradition requests flew across the Atlantic. The U.S. charged McKinnon with 7 counts of cybercrime across 14 states, claiming he had caused over $700,000 in damages. If convicted, he faced up to 70 years in an American prison. But the numbers didn't add up. The British government hesitated. Something wasn't right. The U.S. had let other hackers walk free. Why was McKinnon different? What had he really seen? The fight against extradition became a national spectacle. McKinnon's mother led a public campaign, warning that her son's fragile mental health, his diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome and depression, made extradition a death sentence. The case dragged on for 10 years, and then, in 2012, a final decision was made. Britain refused to hand him over. The U.S. lost, but McKinnon had already lost something far greater. His life had been shattered, his mind weighed down by a decade of fear, paranoia, and legal battles. He had set out to uncover the greatest secret in human history, and in return, he had become a prisoner of his own discovery. But the biggest question remains: what did he truly see? Years later, in 2019, the Pentagon confirmed the authenticity of a tic-tac-shaped UFO video, eerily similar to what McKinnon described. Had he stumbled upon the first documented evidence of extraterrestrial technology, or was his discovery erased, buried once again beneath layers of classified secrets? The truth was out there, and McKinnon had come closer than anyone to uncovering it.